The untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing game's been missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, we're not that far away from Manny Pacquiao versus Errol Spence. As I'm making this video, it's July 26th. It's 5:37 a.m. here in South Florida. So we're less than a month away from, the big fight between Pacquiao and Spence, and it's one that's very interesting. It's got a lot of people splitting as far as opinion goes. A lot of people think Spence is going to win. A lot of people think Pacquiao is going to win. I've been on record. I said it 2 years ago. I said that Errol Spence's style is tailor-made for Manny Pacquiao, and that video I made 2 years ago. I stick by those words. But I think it's going to be a good fight. Errol Spence is a damn good welterweight. Manny Pacquiao is an all-time living legend in the sport, so it's an exciting fight. But what I wanted to speak about in this particular video was Freddie Roach, Manny Pacquiao's longtime trainer, Freddie Roach, the world-renowned trainer, Freddie Roach. He made some interesting statements in regards to Spence and compared him to Pacquiao's last opponent, Keith Thurman. And he said that he thinks Keith Thurman is better than Errol Spence, which I know is going to raise some eyebrows from a lot of people in boxing. But let's get into what Freddie Roach said. He stated the following, saying, I quote, "I think Keith Thurman is better than Errol Spence. I watched tape on both guys, Thurman and Spence, and I studied both of them. I know both guys really well, and overall, I can see that Thurman is a better fighter." He then went on by saying, as far as Pacquiao's game plan for the fight, he said, "I told Manny, go get this guy, go put this guy on his ass in the first round, and the momentum will head your way." So it looks like Manny Pacquiao is looking to start fast. Roach also said, I quote, "We are going to start fast. We are going to be ready for 12 hard rounds. Spence better be ready for a 12-round fight. Manny will be ready for Spence." So Roach not impressed with Spence. He's not on the man down Errol Spence hype train, so to speak. He thinks that Manny Pacquiao's already fought a tougher opponent in Keith Thurman. Now, what we must acknowledge when it comes to Keith Thurman and Errol Spence is they're different fighters. They both are fantastic fighters. They're both, elite welterweights, but they both do different things well. Errol Spence is a guy that I think when we talk about just doing the basics of boxing, he does the basics of boxing very well. Errol Spence Jr. is what I would classify as a Texas fighter. A lot of Texas fighters, their punches are very straight. Their punches are very I don't know if this word is correct, but they're very linear. They're very straight down the middle. And Errol Spence Jr., while he's not the fastest fighter in the world and he don't punch the hardest in the world, the one thing I think Errol Spence does better than almost everybody in boxing that nobody talks about. I've never heard anybody say this ever. I think Errol Spence Jr. he doesn't drop his hands. His hand positioning is the best, is up there with the best in boxing. You don't see Errol Spence Jr. like if Errol Spence Jr. is boxing with you, right? If he's boxing with you, he throws his jab, it comes right back, and you don't see him drop his hand. Like, you don't see him throw a jab and then bring it down here. You don't see him, shoot a left hand and then kind of pull it back down here and have to bring it back up. He doesn't give you any inches in the ring. So Errol Spence Jr., his hand positioning makes whatever he wants to do a lot easier because he's not wasting movement or giving up valuable inches or centimeters in that ring. And at that world-class championship level, those centimeters, those millimeters, those small little inches, they mean the difference between you being a champion and you being a contender, and he's a champion for a reason. So Errol Spence Jr. great at that. Keith Thurman, he's a guy that I think when it comes down to who has better feet, he's got better feet than Errol Spence. He's got better feet than Errol Spence. He punches from different angles. And I would say when it comes to picking his shots from the outside, I would even say he's better than Errol Spence at that. But different fighters with different strengths. Errol Spence Jr. is going to present different challenges to Manny Pacquiao. Now, this is a southpaw versus southpaw matchup. And what makes this fight so interesting is the fact that, Manny Pacquiao hasn't fought an elite southpaw in years. I mean, you might have to, I don't have his box record in front of me, but off the top of my head, you might need to go all the way back to the days of David Diaz to name the last elite southpaw that Manny Pacquiao was in the boxing ring with. So that makes this fight intriguing because normally, when Manny is a southpaw, so normally he's fighting an orthodox fighter, because in boxing, generally speaking, there's more orthodox fighters than there are southpaw fighters. So when you're a southpaw fighter, and I can speak to this as somebody who, when I spent time in the boxing gym and I've dabbled in sparring as a southpaw, it always takes you rounds to get used to the foot positioning of the orthodox fighter. But when you're fighting a fellow southpaw, you don't gotta get used to that. You guys are on one accord. So because of that, I think this fight, especially in the first couple of rounds, I think this fight has a chance to be very, very explosive, and it's very interesting. But I'm gonna have a breakdown video on this like soon, because this fight deserves a long-winded breakdown. You'll get one from me soon. But I think Freddie Roach, I don't know if Freddie Roach actually believes that. Maybe he does, I don't know. But either way, the reality is this: I like Manny Pacquiao, I'm rooting for him, but he is up against it. He's up against a couple factors. First and foremost, he hasn't boxed in 2 years, and I have a theory that my theory is that the 2 years out of the ring will have done Pacquiao some good. He has a lot of wear and tear on the body. He's fought world-class fighter after world-class fighter, and I think the 2 years will actually preserve his body. But in saying that, he's still 42 years old, and when you're at this age for Manny Pacquiao, it is possible. It doesn't matter if you're as great as Manny Pacquiao. You can get old overnight, and there's definitely that's a possibility in this fight. It is a slight possibility in this fight, but if Errol Spence beats him, full credit to him. There's a lot of factors. You get the fact that Errol Spence Jr. is the young fighter. He seems to be the next guy that PBC is building up into a superstar. So if it's a close fight, you should expect Errol to get a decision. I think if Manny wins, he's got to win conclusively, decisively. But I think he's capable of it, and I think Manny Pacquiao is good enough to beat Errol Spence conclusively. That's why I made that video 2 years ago, saying that Errol Spence Jr. style is tailor-made for Manny Pacquiao, because I really believe that. I think Errol Spence's lack of foot speed, and his foot speed and his lack of dexterity. When I say dexterity, I mean like his punches are very straight and linear, and that's very good. You want to be able to throw straight punches, but you got to be able to come around the guard and throw it from different angles to beat Manny Pacquiao. His lack of counter punching ability, I think, will hurt him in this fight. Errol Spence Jr. is not a fighter that's known for his counter punching. Errol Spence Jr. is a guy that's very workmanlike. Think of like Terry Norris. Think of guys like Marvin Hagler. I'm not saying he's as good as Marvin Hagler, but I'm saying his approach, his style, it's very Marvin Hagler-esque. He's a workmanlike guy. He doesn't get you out of there in one shot. He systematically and mentally breaks you down with body shots, pressure on the front foot, and things like that. So I just think the way he fights, it's gonna mesh very well for Manny Pacquiao and his style and what he brings to the table. So I'm gonna leave it at that. But that's the news, man. Freddie Roach says that Keith Thurman was a tougher fight and a better fighter than Errol Spence Jr. is. So make of that what you will. Give me your thoughts on this down below in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys. Make sure you guys take the time to subscribe, because like I said, man, we're on the road to 40,000 subscribers. I'm trying to get to 40K by the end of the year. So help me out, join the empire, and support one of the realest boxing channels out there. And boxing would be better for it. And yeah, leave your comments down below. Take the time to subscribe. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys.